Every single morning across the globe, millions of aging adults step into their kitchens and swallow spoonfuls of expensive, vibrantly colored turmeric powder. They mix it into hot water. They blend it into smoothies. They swallow it in premium capsules. They execute this daily ritual with the absolute unshakable belief that they are actively scrubbing their blood vessels clean, melting away decades of arterial plaque, and protecting themselves from a catastrophic cardiovascular event. But here is the brutal, unforgiving clinical reality. Up to 95% of that pure curcumin is being flushed directly into the toilet within hours of ingestion. While they look down at their brightly colored waste feeling a false sense of medical security, the calcified cholesterol plaques inside their coronary and peripheral arteries continue to slowly, silently and violently choke off their oxygen supply. Today, we are dragging the curcumin molecule out of the health blogs and putting it directly onto the cold steel of the surgical table. We are going to dissect the exact microscopic scene of cellular metabolism. We will expose exactly why your highly praised miracle spice is doing absolutely nothing for your cold hands, your aching calves, and your soaring blood pressure. You are failing because your body operates on strict biochemical laws, and you are violating those laws because you forgot to include one microscopic, inexpensive seed. Let us examine the biological crime scene of oral curcumin administration. To understand why your arteries remain blocked, you must trace the exact anatomical journey of what happens the second that golden powder slides down your esophagus. The moment curcumin enters the harsh acidic environment of your stomach and passes through the pyloric sphincter into the small intestine, your internal filtration system goes on high alert. Your body does not see curcumin as a vascular healer. Through the lens of evolutionary biology, your hepatic enzymes immediately tag this complex polyphenol as a foreign, potentially toxic xenobiotic substance. This identification triggers a relentless hyper-efficient defense mechanism known in pharmacology as glucuronidation. Inside the liver, specific enzymes known as uridine diphospho, glucuronidyltransferases, or simply UGTs, launch a targeted chemical attack on the curcumin molecules. These enzymes forcibly attach a glucuronic acid sugar molecule to the curcumin structure. This chemical alteration instantly changes the curcumin from being a fat-soluble compound into a highly water-soluble one. Why does your liver do this? Because water-soluble compounds can be rapidly filtered by the renal system. Your liver is intentionally weaponizing your kidneys to excrete the curcumin directly into your bladder before it can ever reach the systemic circulation. It is a mass eviction at the cellular level. Before the curcumin can even approach your inflamed blood vessels to begin the healing process, it is trapped in your urine and permanently expelled. But the anatomical nightmare for curcumin does not end at the liver. Even if a microscopic fraction of this compound manages to survive the hepatic first-pass metabolism and successfully enters the bloodstream, it immediately collides with a physical brick wall. The curcumin molecule is biologically hydrophobic. In molecular physics, this means it is completely terrified of water. Your blood, however, is essentially a water-based transport highway. When you ingest turmeric mixed merely with hot water tea or raw honey, the curcumin molecules clump together in the aqueous environment of your blood plasma. They are utterly powerless to penetrate the phospholipid bilayer of your endothelial cells. The endothelium is the microscopic, ultra-thin inner lining of your blood vessels. Its membrane is composed of tightly packed lipid molecules. Because the water-mixed curcumin lacks a lipid carrier, it bounces off this protective cellular membrane like a rubber ball hitting a solid concrete wall. It cannot enter the cell. It cannot reach the mitochondria. It cannot neutralize the localized inflammation. The clinical consequences of this physiological failure are devastating precisely because they are invisible. Deep inside the microvascular system of your lower extremities, the oxidative stress continues unchecked. The chronic inflammation which your doctor measures through your C-reactive protein levels silently escalates along the smooth muscle walls of your arteries. Microscopic tears form along the endothelium. Low-density lipoproteins, the dangerous oxidized cholesterol particles, crash into these tears and embed themselves deep into the arterial tissue. Macrophages rush in to consume the cholesterol, ballooning into toxic foam cells that calcify into rock-hard plaque. This is the exact mechanical progression of atherosclerosis. You operate under the fatal illusion that your daily turmeric ritual is protecting your cardiovascular system. Meanwhile, the mechanism of platelet adhesion is actively constructing the very blood clots that cause ischemic strokes and myocardial infarctions. You are not healing your narrowing vessels. Your fingers are still numb. Your legs still ache when you walk up the stairs. You are simply passing yellow water while your arteries progressively harden inch by microscopic inch. Let us look closer at that silent damage. The human vascular network is over 60,000 miles long. It is a highly pressurized system that demands absolute structural elasticity to function and keep you alive. When the endothelial cells are starved of targeted anti-inflammatory compounds, they lose their ability to synthesize a critical biological gas called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is the master signaling molecule that forces the smooth muscle cells wrapped around your arteries to relax and dilate. Without the protective intervention of curcumin inside those specific cells, your nitric oxide production plummets. The blood vessels remain permanently constricted. This chronic vasospasm forces your heart to pump harder, driving your systolic blood pressure straight into the danger zone. The sheer mechanical force of this high-pressure blood flow physically strips away the fragile endothelial cells, creating a microscopic war zone. It is in this exact turbulent environment that fibrinogen proteins begin weaving a sticky web trapping red blood cells and creating the architectural foundation of a lethal thrombosis. All of this destruction is occurring right now precisely because the curcumin you swallowed hours ago was entirely dismantled by your liver and completely rejected by your cellular membranes. The solution to this metabolic massacre does not require a pharmaceutical prescription. It requires a precise understanding of enzymatic inhibition. You must introduce a biological hacker into your gastrointestinal tract simultaneously with the curcumin. This molecule is an alkaloid known as piperine extracted directly from black pepper. When piperine enters the small intestine and travels to the liver, it executes a highly specific chemical blockade. It physically binds to the UGT enzymes. It alters their structural conformation. This temporary paralysis of your liver enzymes completely halts the glucuronidation process. Your body is suddenly stripped of its ability to tag and excrete the curcumin molecules. The xenobiotic defense system is forced offline. Clinical pharmacology studies demonstrate that this precise enzymatic inhibition forcibly retains curcumin inside your blood serum, elevating its systemic bioavailability by an astonishing 2,000%. You are overriding your hepatic filtration system and flooding your vascular network with the raw polyphenol. Once the liver barrier is artificially breached by the piperine, the curcumin molecules saturate your bloodstream. They flow directly into the microscopic capillaries of your extremities. This is where the true cellular surgery begins. Upon reaching the damaged endothelial layer, the curcumin acts as a targeted molecular scalpel. It immediately begins neutralizing reactive oxygen species commonly known as free radicals. These highly volatile molecules contain unpaired electrons that literally rip apart the cellular structures of your arteries. Curcumin chemically donates electrons to these free radicals, neutralizing them before they can oxidize your low-density lipoproteins. But its primary target is far more insidious. Curcumin directly infiltrates the nucleus of your endothelial cells and aggressively downregulates the genetic expression of a specific protein called vascular cell adhesion molecule 1, or VCAM1. To understand the gravity of this mechanism, you must visualize VCAM1. It acts as biological Velcro lining the interior walls of your inflamed blood vessels. When your arteries are damaged by high blood sugar or sheer physical stress, they deploy thousands of these VCAM1 proteins. These microscopic hooks reach out into the flowing bloodstream and aggressively snag passing white blood cells. They pull these immune cells deep into the arterial subendothelial space, where they gorge on oxidized cholesterol and calcify into deadly atherosclerotic plaques. By suppressing the VCAM1 gene, curcumin effectively shears off the biological Velcro. The white blood cells slip past the arterial walls, unable to anchor themselves. The foundational step of plaque formation is physically terminated at the genetic level. With the inflammatory cascade suppressed, the endothelial tissue undergoes rapid functional restoration. The now protected cells reactivate a suppressed enzyme known as endothelial nitric oxide synthase, or ENOS. The upregulation of ENOS catalyzes the continuous conversion of the amino acid L-arginine into the life-saving gas nitric oxide. This volatile gas rapidly diffuses across the cellular membranes and penetrates deep into the vascular, smooth muscle tissue. The muscle fibers previously clamped tightly around your arteries instantly relax. The internal diameter of the blood vessel expands, physically lowering the resistance to blood flow. Highly oxygenated blood rushes into the previously starved microcapillaries of your hands, feet, and brain. The agonizing cramps in your calves dissipate. The chronic numbness in your toes is replaced by radiating physical warmth. This is not a perceived benefit. It is a measurable mechanical vasodilation driven by precise biochemical engineering. However, piperine alone is not the complete cipher. While black pepper forcefully bypasses the liver enzymes, it completely fails to solve the fundamental laws of fluid dynamics. Curcumin remains a severely hydrophobic compound. Even circulating in high concentrations within your blood plasma, it struggles to efficiently breach the lipid-based cellular membranes of your deep tissues. It requires a dedicated biological transport vehicle. It demands a lipid solvent. This is the catastrophic error made by millions who swallow turmeric capsules with a glass of tap water. You must manually bind the curcumin to medium or long-chain triglycerides before it ever enters your mouth. This requires the deliberate introduction of extra virgin olive oil or cold-pressed coconut oil into the exact same dosage. When you mechanically mix raw turmeric powder with a high-quality lipid source, you trigger a process called micellization. The fatty acids in the oil forcefully surround the individual curcumin molecules. They arrange themselves into microscopic spherical structures called micelles. The hydrophilic heads of the fat molecules face outward, perfectly compatible with the watery environment of your digestive tract and bloodstream. The hydrophobic tails face inward, creating a sealed protective pocket that cradles the curcumin. You have effectively built a microscopic submarine to transport the water-fearing polyphenol through a highly aqueous environment. This lipid encapsulation changes the entire anatomical route of absorption. Instead of being absorbed through the hepatic portal vein, where it must face the liver, the lipid-encased curcumin bypasses this route entirely. The micelles are drawn directly into the lacteals. These are specialized lymphatic vessels lining your small intestine. The curcumin is sucked into the lymphatic system, traveling upward through the thoracic duct and dropping straight into your systemic venous circulation near the heart. It completely circumvents the hepatic first-pass filtration. The liver never even sees the compound until it has already circulated through your entire vascular network. By combining piperine to block the enzymes and a lipid solvent to hack the lymphatic transport, you achieve maximum physiological penetration. This brings us to the ultimate clinical formula known as the golden paste. It is not a culinary recipe. It is a strictly engineered pharmacological matrix. The precise ratio is non-negotiable. You must combine the raw ground turmeric with the black pepper and the extra virgin olive oil in a specific sequence. Heating the lipids slightly alters their viscosity, allowing for maximum saturation of the curcuminoids. The thermal energy breaks down the crystalline structure of the turmeric powder, forcing the curcumin to dissolve completely into the fat molecules. When you ingest this precisely formulated matrix, you are delivering a fully armed payload directly to your dying blood vessels. The piperine locks the liver doors open. The olive oil provides the armored transport. The curcumin executes the cellular repair. Any deviation from this biological triad results in absolute metabolic failure. You cannot skip the pepper because it irritates your throat. You cannot skip the oil because you are counting calories. The laws of biochemistry do not care about your dietary preferences. Let us examine the exact physiological timeline of what occurs when you administer one precisely engineered tablespoon of this golden paste into your gastrointestinal tract. Within the first 45 minutes, the piperine alkaloid achieves maximum plasma concentration. Your hepatic UGT enzymes are successfully bound and neutralized. Within 2 hours, the lipid-encapsulated curcumin micelles enter the systemic circulation via the lymphatic ducts. As this payload reaches the peripheral microvasculature of your extremities, you will experience a distinct thermal shift. This is not a subjective feeling of wellness. It is the objective mechanical dilation of your capillaries as endothelial nitric oxide synthase is violently upregulated. The smooth muscle tissue surrounding your arterioles physically relaxes. The localized blood pressure in your lower limbs drops. Oxygen-saturated erythrocytes pour into the oxygen-starved tissues of your toes and calves. Let us delve deeper into the exact hematological mechanics of what happens when your vessels remain starved of this precisely delivered curcumin. Inside your bloodstream, you have millions of microscopic disc-shaped cells called platelets. Under normal physiological conditions, these platelets float freely, repelling one another. However, when your endothelial wall is damaged by chronic oxidative stress, it exposes the underlying collagen fibers. The moment a platelet touches this raw exposed collagen, it undergoes a violent structural transformation. It sprouts microscopic tentacles. It releases chemical attractants like thromboxane A2, which act as a biological alarm system summoning thousands of other platelets to the crash site. They clump together, forming a dense, sticky plug. This is the exact mechanism of a myocardial infarction or a cerebral stroke. When you properly administer the lipid-encased curcumin fortified with piperine, you are not just relaxing the blood vessels. You are fundamentally altering the behavior of your platelets. The curcumin molecules penetrate the platelet membrane and actively inhibit the synthesis of thromboxane A2. It strips the platelets of their chemical alarm system. They lose their unnatural stickiness. The blood viscosity decreases, allowing it to flow smoothly through even the most critically narrowed arterial junctions. You are disarming the microscopic time bombs circulating in your plasma. Furthermore, we must analyze the role of macrophage polarization within the arterial wall. When a white blood cell enters the subendothelial space to consume trapped cholesterol, it can adopt one of two phenotypes. It can become an M1 macrophage, which is highly inflammatory and secretes cytokines that further degrade the blood vessel. Or it can become an M2 macrophage, which is anti-inflammatory and acts as a localized cleanup crew, repairing the tissue. The presence of highly bioavailable curcumin inside the arterial wall physically forces these immune cells to adopt the M2 phenotype. You are reprogramming your own immune system to stop attacking the blood vessel and start repairing the microscopic tears. This is the difference between a plaque that ruptures and kills you instantly and a plaque that stabilizes and slowly regresses over time. Let us analyze the critical function of your gallbladder in this exact equation. When you ingest the golden paste, the high concentration of extra virgin olive oil triggers the release of a hormone called cholecystokinin in your duodenum. This hormone acts as a chemical messenger ordering your gallbladder to contract violently. The gallbladder forcefully ejects highly concentrated bile acids directly into your small intestine. These bile acids act as biological detergents. They crash into the olive oil and curcumin mixture, violently emulsifying the lipids. They break down the large fat globules into microscopic nanodroplets, exponentially increasing the surface area for your pancreatic lipase enzymes to attack. This dual action of exogenous olive oil and endogenous bile acids ensures that virtually 100% of the curcumin payload is absorbed into the lymphatic circulation. If you attempt to take turmeric powder on an empty stomach without the lipid trigger, your gallbladder remains dormant. The bile is never released. The micellization never occurs. The curcumin simply passes through your digestive tract as inert, highly expensive waste. By day 7 of this continuous administration protocol, we observe a systemic shift in your inflammatory biomarkers. If we were to draw your blood and run a high-sensitivity C-reactive protein panel, we would see a precipitous decline. The curcumin molecules have successfully penetrated the subendothelial space and are actively suppressing the VCAM1 proteins. The macrophages that previously gorged on oxidized low-density lipoproteins are being systematically starved of reactive oxygen species. The calcified caps of your existing atherosclerotic plaques begin to stabilize. The microscopic shear stress against your arterial walls is significantly reduced because the blood viscosity itself is altered. By day 30, the architectural integrity of your vascular network has been fundamentally altered. The endothelial lining has regenerated its protective mucosal layer. The chronic vasospasm that previously spiked your systolic blood pressure has been biologically deactivated. Your peripheral neuropathy, The numbness, the tingling, the sharp shooting pains down your legs diminish because the vasa nervorum, the tiny blood vessels that supply your peripheral nerves, are finally delivering continuous oxygen and glucose. You are no longer masking the symptoms of cardiovascular collapse. You are actively reversing the localized endothelial dysfunction at the cellular level. But you must understand the ruthless, unforgiving nature of human biology. Your cardiovascular system does not care about your intentions. It does not care how much money you spend on premium organic turmeric root extracted from the Himalayas. It is a biological machine governed exclusively by the laws of chemistry and physics. If you attempt to cheat these laws, your body will instantly punish you with physiological failure. If you ingest the curcumin without the piperine, the liver will annihilate it. If you ingest it without the lipid solvent, the cellular membranes will repel it. You are faced with a binary choice. You either construct the precise biochemical transport vehicle required to deliver the polyphenol to the inflamed tissue, or you are simply creating highly expensive, intensely yellow urine while your arteries continue to harden and choke off your life supply. The protocol is absolute. You will take 1/2 teaspoon of ground turmeric. You will add a generous pinch of freshly ground black pepper to release the piperine. You will submerge this completely in 1 full tablespoon of cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil. You will mix this into a uniform paste. You will ingest this matrix immediately after a meal to ensure maximal gallbladder contraction and bile release, which further aids in the micellization process. You will not alter this ratio. You will not skip a day. Cardiovascular disease does not take a day off from calcifying your vessels, and you cannot take a day off from neutralizing the oxidative stress. You now possess the exact biochemical blueprint to forcibly dilate your blood vessels and halt the progression of arterial plaque. The decision to execute this protocol rests entirely in your hands. Do not let this clinical data go to waste. Share this precise formulation with anyone in your life who is currently swallowing useless turmeric powder and wondering why their blood pressure continues to rise. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications because your medical re-education has only just begun. In our next clinical breakdown, we will be dissecting a far more terrifying pharmaceutical reality. We will expose the horrifying truth about the specific cholesterol-lowering medication that is silently dissolving your striated muscle fibers, while your doctor writes you another prescription.